starting. This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act. This meeting was included in the list of meeting notices sent to the Bergen Record and Herald News and advertised in said newspaper in January, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as the required notices under the statute. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Mary, please call the roll.
Councilmember Martin. Councilmember Gilbreth.
Here.
Councilmember Orlett.
Here.
Councilmember Cole.
Here.
Councilmember Rosansky. Here. Councilmember Rosenstein.
Here.
All right, the mayor will be here shortly. She was unavoidably detained, but we're gonna get started with the lead service line ordinance discussion. So for the people who don't know, the lead service line replacement law was enacted in 2021. It has a 10-year time horizon on it, so we are coming up on 4 years into this regulation. Some municipalities have passed ordinances to require upon the sale of a home that if there are lead lines, and to be clear, lead lines from the curb to the house, this does not mean replacing all of the pipes in the house, that it becomes part of the requirements of sale to get a CO. So the law itself is silent as to enforcement. So you can get all the notices, and Bridgewood Water is required to send these notices to homeowners about the lead lines. And people can use the group that we're using to replace them. They can replace them themselves. Technically, they can do nothing, but the idea is that we could have an ordinance that says, if you go to sell your home, this is what you would do. And the analogy that I would use is that it's very similar to no respecting real estate lawyer will let a buyer close on a home if there's an oil tank in the ground, right? Even if you remediated according to what was the law at the time, they just won't let you leave it in the ground because of the environmental downsides if it is later have found to leak. So everybody got a copy of Ridgewood's ordinance, what they did, and we just wanted to put it on the table and talk about it because I said we are moving along on this timeline, and a lot of people, I'll say anecdotally, we're hearing that people are asking this question now, and so they're asking for lead lines to be dealt with upon closing or before closing, right? That seems to be what's going on, which I think I predicted that when this law first came out because it was gonna go the way of the oil tanks. So, I'm personally in favor of doing it. It's something that I think is good for the safety of the next buyer. And it will move us closer to removing, again, curb to house lead lines, not lead lines that are in the home. So, anyone else have any thoughts on that?
How do they know who has a lead line?
So there's a testing process. They have a truck, they go around, they do sampling, and they know if you have one. There are 2 types of lead lines, 2 locations. It's lead lines and galvanized pipe, so it's 2 categories. From the curb to the house is one, and that's the homeowner's responsibility. And then there's the main, and whether or not those are also by law, have to be replaced by 2031. And if you go to the Ridgewood Water site, you can actually click on the lead line replacement section, and you can click and you can find out if your house has a lead line. As you would expect, it tends to be in neighborhoods, so older neighborhoods have a higher preponderance of lead lines. If you look at some of the newer areas of town, they don't have lead lines. It's just a matter of what went on through time. Some people have already remediated. Like if you did a renovation on your home, it's a possibility that you already took care of your lead lines. But you can go on the Ridgewood Water site, and if anybody needs to figure out how to do that, I'm happy to help people do that because I look all the time, and it's very clear If you're green, you're good to go. If you're red, you're lead. And, if it's orange, they're still investigating. So,
Yeah, I mean, the Redwood one seems very straightforward, either a new account or a transfer of ownership.
right,
Yeah,
so,
I like your oil tank analogy, like that makes sense, just have it fixed at point of sale, new owner comes into the house, it's healthy.
and it's a health and safety thing for the, for residents, talking about health service lines. So, any other thoughts?
Do they have any estimate of how many ones are still lit?
Yes, then I'll make up a number, because I can't remember the exact numbers, between 400 and 600 in Glen Rock. But that's, as people remediate, they check it off and get that taken care of.
Again, this has been going on
This-
for
Since
3 years, maybe?
Since 2020, July 2021.
And that website's a great resource, I remember hearing about it when it first came up, and I checked my house, 2 years ago, and luckily no red lights on my property, but
Yeah.
it was reassuring, to
And-
read that.
Right, and notwithstanding all of that, there is something put in our water treatment that goes through the line, so people should not be freaked out that they're getting lead as if the pipes were untreated. There's also something that happens to keep folks safe. So, are we in favor of moving forward for a Glen Rock ordinance to require lead line replacement curb to house, not within the house, for residents at the time of sale?
Yeah, and what happens at the end of the 10-year period?
They have not yet extended the regulation, so it's a regulation that kind of falls off a cliff. Probably not the technical term, but that's what happens, there's nothing at the end.
Sunsets?
Well, it kind of falls up, because if something's not remediated, somebody's gonna recognize that they're gonna have to pick up the ball at that point. There's gonna be future legislation, but we just don't know what it is. It's just that they put it on with 10 years, and I'm sure somebody thought, well, certainly in 10 years, everybody will have.
Is there any consequence to the town?
No, and the consequence, is only to Ridgewood Water if they fail to send the required notices. So they have to keep sending notices that you have a lead line, and here's everything that can happen to help you remediate it.
And they've sent that out to the 400
Everybody, this has been going on for
Years.
years. Years and
We've
years.
been meeting for
That's-
years.
We've been meeting for 4 years. So, that's the status. So, are we in favor of moving forward?
Yes.
Goodness, I am.
I'd like to do a little bit of research, but generally, yes.
Okay, well, let me know, because we've been at this for a long time.
So can I have a motion?
Well, we would just put it on
We're gonna put on
the
the,
agenda for next.
you want a motion to have Jen draft the ordinance? I'll make a motion to have our attorney draft an ordinance.
Oh, no,
We don't,
It would be me, it would be Bill Ruff, because it's,
Our-
Ridgewood Water.
our-
Yes, our council.
Our council, our
The board
attorney, our
lawyer,
council,
yes.
not necessarily this person, but
Yes,
our council to
exactly.
draft an ordinance that, takes care of these items.
Similar to the Ridgewood ordinance.
Yes.
Did Midland Drive, did they all pass them as well?
I don't think the others did yet.
Okay.
One of them had really low number, right?
Wyckoff had like 10.
6 or.
Yeah,
It was like,
like
because,
11,
because of
yeah.
the age of their build in that town,
Yeah.
they were, mostly new properties.
So we'll draft the ordinance and then we'll circulate it around
Yes.
to the council prior to it going up on it.
Right, right.
So we can review that.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I turn it back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, and I apologize, I had physical therapy today and I was not doing so good. So I needed to get home and shower before I came. So next up I have noise abutting landowner, so I'm gonna turn this over to Seth.
Sure. So last year, there was a proposed ordinance, as prior to my time, but as most of you know, that would deal with noise abutting across property lines. As far as whether that ordinance as drafted will accomplish the goals that I understand were discussed and some ongoing issues between property owners in town require addressing, I think that the ordinance would do precisely what the goal is. My only concern is that this may create more issues than it solves. My concern is getting police officers or municipal officials involved in what really are civil disputes between neighbors. I think that can get very messy and can be problematic. In my professional life, I've litigated these issues, and it oftentimes, at least in my experience, is that it's oftentimes better for folks to take this to the Superior Court than it is for municipal officials to get involved. With that said, if the council is inclined to pass an ordinance to deal with these issues, the ordinance as drafted would accomplish what it would be looking to do.
So I have a question for that. So, first off, thank you. This was brought to us, more than 2 years ago, and the poor homeowner had attempted many times to deal with the neighbor directly, and has since been suffering. And then from that, other residents came forward about similar issues that they're having. When you said, and I agree to an extent that when there's civil disputes, it's never a good thing for us to get in the middle of. It's like a neighbor to neighbor issue. This isn't, we're not a jury and a trial at this table, nor should our police be in civil disputes. I mean, other disputes, of course. But you said they could take it to Superior Court. Under what would they file under Superior Court for that?
It would be a nuisance action.
Okay.
Be a nuisance action. You know, and I've litigated these cases before. I don't want to speak too much, you know, with my lawyer hat on as opposed to my counsel person hat on. But that's how these actions would generally be brought. And any damages arguably brought in the Superior Court would be far substantial to any municipal fines that would be issued. So if anything, it's more of a deterrence for an adjacent property owner to limit the noise and not cause problems, knowing that, if I remember correctly, the statute even provides for double damages. Don't quote me on that, but I seem to remember that. Regardless, you know, I fully appreciate that there are noise issues in town and that standards are important. I'm also just very wary about putting local government in the middle of civil disputes.
Anyone else have questions or comments regarding this?
I mean, I struggle with this one because it is not a normal circumstance.
Right.
It is so beyond in terms of what anyone should have to withstand. And I know how hard it is to put a framework around this, but I do feel that it's appropriate to look at it, not just, you know, this is in no way, shape, or form. We're not trying to tell people, don't have a party, don't have a graduation party, don't have a celebration, don't have friends over. This is habitual,
Consistent.
sustained, loud, and not just loud, but, you know, incredibly invasive noise. And I feel like we ought to do something. And that's my, you know, I do, you know, appreciate that the homeowner may choose to take another course to get a better outcome. But I think if any of us were in this position, and any resident in town, we would be, you know, just not accepting this behavior, and somehow we have to do something. That's my.
I completely agree, and I'm unbelievably sympathetic to this situation. I I do lean a little bit to what Seth was saying. It is not the job of this body to litigate civil, like, neighbors' disagreements. So, if the ordinance, you know, if our noise ordinance could be tweaked to, in a holistic way to help the current situation, then I'm completely in favor of it. But I think we have to be careful, about the limitations that we create within the ordinance, because this is a very unique situation. And, I don't think we can create an ordinance for this situation alone. It has to be, holistically treated. And, so that's the conundrum, you know.
So what we had, talked about in the work session last summer was an amendment to our nuisance ordinance, right? Our noise specifically is regulated by DEP, believe it or not, as a pollution question. But we do have a nuisance ordinance, keeps in good order, which is the kind of thing that you would, you know, your neighbor's having a loud party at 1 a.m, right? It has hours. And so, sort of as an enforcement question, you know, you call the police, right? My neighbor's having, you know, a loud party, 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why I just pointed to the mayor. Never. I wanna be invited if there is one. But, you know, the police officer comes, stands at the property line, they can hear the music, it's a moment in time, right? It's after, you know, whatever the hour is, they are the witness to the action. The difficulty with amending the nuisance ordinance for this kind of repetitive or continuous unreasonable nuisance is that you wanna make it flexible enough that you can have a backyard party, somebody's got a graduation party or what have you, right? People are going to make noise in the enjoyment of their homes from time to time. So part of it, right, is just a recognition that to the extent we enacted changes, again, resident will call the police officer will come, the complainant though is gonna have to be the resident themselves rather than the police officer, because the police officer won't be able to say, yes, this went on for more than 3 hours. They're clearly not going to stand there for 3 hours, right? So the new additional parameters that we had talked about last summer were, in addition to our regular hours where it's that moment in time question, is extended periods of time, meaning a continuous period of 3 hours or more in a given day, 6 hours or more in a given week, or such other continuous unreasonable noise which results in material interference, depriving others of the quiet enjoyment of public or private spaces. And at the time, there were some members of the public that thought that was overly restrictive. And then there was a question of, while there were some members of the public that felt that was overly restrictive, was it restrictive enough to address the type of situation that we're talking about? So those are the two things that we would try to weigh in drafting.
There was also, in my opinion, a clear misunderstanding. You know, I'm not sure if there was a thorough reading of what we actually said, and it was like, you're trying to stop me from having parties, and, you know, so there was a little bit of that going on. You know, there was not, it was, to me, it was more of a, oh, it must be true because it's on Facebook and this is what the new rule is, as opposed to an actual reading of what was being proposed. And so I appreciate that there were people, but I don't know that there were people who had read it and had an informed opinion. It was just, you know, I'm mad because you don't want me to have parties anymore. And that's not the intent. This is.
Yeah, continuous,
to stop the
unreasonable,
torture.
repetitive.
Right, that doesn't prescribe a graduation party, that doesn't prescribe a family
No.
barbecue, so.
No. So.
I like the ordinance. I like the ordinance. Okay.
Yeah, I think if
about it being holistic, like it's not saying what the worst case assumption was, that we're trying to make sure that no one has fun ever again, and no one's ever allowed to play an instrument in town ever again. This is, you cannot play music for 6 hours per day, every day of the week, and then 12 hours on the weekends, because, and I'm sure it's not only one neighbor, I'm sure other neighbors surrounding are also affected. I don't know, maybe they like that music. But I think as long as we're very clear that it's about a continuous, repetitive, unrelenting.
The word like habitual comes to mind, like it's something that is redundant, comes over and over again. But I know with like noise ordinances, they use, a lot of them, I think, Jen, maybe I'm wrong, but I think a lot of them, use decibel levels.
But
Well,
this
so
wasn't
that's,
in
you're
there.
thinking of the noise
Right,
ordinance.
so
that
we're
is-
not touching
that
the
is
noise,
what
this is the
we're not
nuisance
talking about
audience.
peace
This
and
is
good order,
nuisance.
not
Right,
noise.
okay, so we're not touching
That's the
the noise
difference.
ordinance.
Because, nor could we really. DEP, and I know this was also an issue that was brought up because people go, well, such and such other town has it in their noise ordinance. That's great. But DEP has a model ordinance, and that's essentially what you're allowed to adopt. And if you, actually, it's interesting, if you go on their website, they're like, this is the process to ask us for permission to adopt something else, but we are rarely run that, so basically don't do that. So it really becomes a nuisance question, rather than a noise question. So all the decibel levels, we're not expecting somebody to go out there with calibrated equipment.
Right.
It's an understanding of, I'm standing at the property line, or I'm hearing it through common walls in a multifamily dwelling. And, you, me, anyone else, it's audible, it's plainly audible.
I know, my only, I do like the ordinance overall, but I do get a little nervous about any kind of ordinance that's put in place where there's a lot of subjectivity to it. Because then there becomes, I don't wanna say the sidewalks, but it's like whenever there's room for,
Interpretation or question.
But doesn't
so
it
what
result-
makes that nuisance and it for one and it, it's not for another, like what, that's why the noise ordinance has decibel levels, because it has to hit a certain level before it becomes illegal, or this, who's,
You don't think the line about being repetitive and consistent over a certain amount of time is clear enough?
And I think the police get
Well,
called
maybe.
out multiple times.
maybe.
Like it's not, it's again, it's incumbent on the person who's being subjected to the incredible noise to call, and maybe they're calling 4 times in 2 days, like maybe that's the, what happens, and then, if that still doesn't put an end to the problem, then I think they have to then take a different path.
So does anyone wanna make a motion to, add the peace and good order revision to the future agenda for a meeting?
For
Introduction.
Introduction.
I'll make
Thank you.
that motion.
I will second.
But do we need to look at it again before we introduce?
I'd like to.
I think like
I think it's too premature.
You wanna put it on the next work
But I would
session?
like us to be able
Okay, so
to
we
look
put it on
and
the
read
next
through it and.
work
and-
session where we distribute it to everyone at the table. And, we'll talk about it again at the next meeting. Alright, so now we're moving on, E-code, Teresa.
So, I will say, except for one department stuff, we're looking good. I need to go back on a couple things to Dean. To Dean.
Okay.
All right, so here's my pile of whole thing.
Amazing,
Big pile.
Teresa,
Huh?
amazing.
So I think that's that's a last step, and I would not feel comfortable saying we're good to go until I do that. Okay?
So the last step is 14.
Yeah. And if you could put that not on the next June meeting, because I have senior prom coming up. The senior prom, not a student senior prom. And so I've,
Senior citizen.
July?
if you wouldn't mind, I've got a few things to do.
Okay. So now we're gonna move on to sidewalks. Yes. Someone just say yes.
Christine, could you try and talk a little louder, please?
I will try to project my voice for you.
I'm sorry.
It's totally okay, and I thank you for that, because also I forget that that microphone doesn't really pick up our voices.
Well, I did ask Lenora, but it's not carrying over here. We moved our seats and,
Okay, all right, so, Jen, do you wanna
Sure.
go with this one?
So, just to recap where we are, you know, we've had a couple of meetings where a couple of public meetings where we've talked about this, a couple of subcommittee meetings where we've talked about this. You know, there are, I think, some concerns about the process, right? And in part, one of the things we'll be discussing tonight is for prospective future adoption of draft ordinance to update our sidewalk code, to make it a little clearer, reflecting the standards that we are currently enforcing and I think are proposing to continue to enforce, and also to improve the communication during that kind of process. So just to recap, right, any property maintenance matter, sidewalk or anything else, either a complaint can be by any resident, doesn't have to be by a neighbor, can be anonymous. We do not, and really cannot inquire into the motives of the person making a complaint. It's just not really an appropriate, exercise at the borough level. And really, that's pretty consistent statewide, you know, how municipalities enforce this type of property maintenance issue. So, and part of the reason for that, why we're not really inquiring into someone's motives, is the complaint's only the beginning of the process. There's a work order that's written up, the sidewalk inspectors, the DPW employee will go out to the property and take a look to see if there is actually a problem with the sidewalk. You know, I was saying the other day, it's a little like, you know, because I know that there's some concern about, well, other properties may not have received a complaint, but maybe their sidewalks are worse than mine. And it is a little bit like speeding on the parkway, right? The police officer may pull me over for speeding because he saw me speeding. There might be plenty of other people that just have not, you know, had the complaint, right, have not been witnessed speeding. It doesn't mean that I didn't break the speed limit and have a ticket as a result, right? The response to the complaint is evaluation for compliance with the borough standards. So, you know, the sidewalk inspector, you know, goes and determines if a portion needs to be reset, so if it needs to be re-leveled essentially, or if it needs to be replaced, it's cracked, it's damaged, you know, it's otherwise a trip hazard. The standards that we are enforcing and what we will talk about in a moment for this draft ordinance is the ADA accessibility standards, right? And the whole point of it is to make sure that the sidewalks are able to be traversed by people of all sorts of different abilities, and whether you have a baby carriage, whether you have a cane, another mobility device, a wheelchair, etc. And the good part about using the ADA accessibility standards is they're sort of universal, they're determined, you know, by another federal government agency that specifically is just focused on this. We can incorporate them by reference, and to the extent that they evolve, you know, the ordinance would evolve with them. Now, part of what we've talked about, with respect to communication is, you know, rather than just going to the property, should attempt, and the sidewalk inspector's been advised, right? Attempt to make, contact with the property owner at the time he visits the property, knock on the door, you know, offer them to be able to discuss with you why you're marking the slabs. We did, at our last meeting, say to anyone who has received a notice that the sidewalk needs to be fixed, to the extent you want the inspector to come out and, you know, make an appointment with you and to have that conversation and, sort of talk through their reasoning with you, that would be fine. We invited residents to do that. To best of my knowledge, I don't think that any requests for those meetings have occurred. And I know, Lenore, you spoke with Bob, but I think that's accurate, that there have been no requests for that. We also talked about, putting together an FAQ, which I think would follow after or concurrently with the introduction of an updated ordinance. Sort of like pictures, examples, you know, just a thing that you can easily Google so that we can help understand, you know, how we comply, right?
Thank you.
So in the ordinance itself, you know, there was this, I'm gonna go with old-timey reference to resolution. The draft ordinance that was circulated just for discussion, and if we're gonna move forward, would be introduced at a future public meeting and then would have another notice and a public comment period, would clarify that when it appears to the director of public works or their designee, who we expect would be the sidewalk inspector, but that post may change from time to time over years, finds that it's necessary, they'll direct that a notice be served either by hand delivery and or mailed to the address that's on the borough's tax records. And in making that determination, they're going to utilize the Americans with Disabilities Act standards for accessible design or such other design standards as implemented by the borough by resolution from time to time. And we've done that in a couple of other places. I think maybe the list of shade tree species might be one of those places where in order to allow ourselves flexibility to evolving conditions, if there's a particular standard that we think is necessary or desirable, you know, the ordinance points to our ability to implement that by resolution. If we don't do that, the Americans with Disability Act standards would be what govern.
So I'm just looking at this. And then the last change was if, the applicant fails to comply, after receiving notice, and, okay, we may cause the work to be done and it'll need to be the subject on the property for the expense thereof with applicable law, which,
And thank you for mentioning that, Mayor. The current ordinance basically says if they don't comply, we shall go do this.
Right.
And, you know, at the property owner's expense. This change to make it optional to the extent that the condition is not remediated, that is consistent with what we do with other property maintenance issues. For example, there is a very large hazardous tree that needs to be removed. Maybe we only had an instance last year, a property owner, an elderly gentleman said, I just don't have the capacity to take it down. We all acknowledged it needed to come down, and the borough removed the tree and placed a lien on the property for that amount. And that's a more generally applicable power that we have when a property issue needs to be remediated.
so, and everyone received a copy of the revised ordinance. What, if any, comments does anyone at this table have?
I just wanted to make a quick update as per DPW. And I had mentioned this at the last meeting and the meeting that I did prior, about the effort and the thought over the last several years of our planting and what's being planted. So just to update, as it relates to the sidewalks, obviously. DPW, starting the week of June 16th, will be planting 50 new native trees all over town. Native being one because they're much more sustainable. They've also been procured for the specific areas that they're being planted, and where they're being planted, they do pipe inspections to make sure that they're not near any electrical or water pipes for the roots, and also they also inspect the size of the grass area between the road and the sidewalk to make sure that it's a size that is sufficient for a tree. So there's a lot of thought that goes into these plantings now. So 50 trees are going to be planted around town on June 16th. And this past week, 9 new native trees were planted at Lower Faber on Doremus. So they're moving on that. And speaking of Doremus, as there has been, as the borough has been made aware of some sidewalks that need fixing and improving, the borough has already begun to correct the sidewalks on Doremus this week. The contractor started to fix those sidewalks.
Today.
Yes.
I got that from work, and there's like just huge chunks missing of sidewalk, and it was.
Just wanted to update everyone on that.
My only concern is, I looked at a lot of other different towns' sidewalk ordinances. Most of them didn't use ADA standards. Because that is a very high standard, they used ADA for new construction. And then for existing homes, especially in a town like this, it's been, hundreds of years we've been here. They had a looser standard, because ADA compliant, that would be really difficult for everyone in this town to meet, I think, so.
Can you give me an example of
Yeah, like
of the town or the standard?
No.
Okay.
Were they towns in New Jersey?
There was a couple in New Jersey and Michigan, just all over. When we met and talked about this, remember? I might be able to call a couple. But they had, instead of the 1/4 inch offset, some of them had a 1/2 inch offset. Just the standard, the ADA standard was really only meant for new construction. Because when you drive around our town, you see all of these sidewalks, all uneven, all over the place. And then you're gonna hold, just a handful of people responsible for meeting ADA standards. To me, that just doesn't seem fair. And so I think that we should at least use that for new construction, but have a set of softer standards for people that are in homes that have had sidewalks existing for, forever.
Actually, right now, we do have pretty loose standards. That's why we wanted to look at the ordinance to make it not more strict, but to give some structure to it, because what I was talking about before about subjectivity, when you don't have standards,
Right. Yeah.
then,
I need to clarify that.
Go ahead.
These are the standards we have been using. The proposed change is clarifying that, so to help people be able to enforce with it, to, implement it on their property, maintain their property, because to have more clarity about the standard that's expected.
Right.
But I do wanna be clear, these are the standards that we've been using.
As someone who walks all over town with my kids and with people with mobility issues, I like that we follow the ADA rules for that, because it is a trip-in hazard if my elderly father is walking down the street with me and has, the inch sidewalk. goes up, so I like the stricter standards for that, I'm not sure we should be loosening that. Rolling the strollers, rolling with the kids who are on their scooters, and, you know, my kids have had quite a few awful tumbles on their scooters on some of these sidewalks. I think it is a safety hazard that we should be keeping an eye on.
So I know we talked about the height, right, the deviance between, or, you know, the lip. So a quarter inch versus a half an inch. Other ways in which we think the ADA might be too strict?
No, I think that's the biggest one.
I think that's the.
I think the offset is the biggest one, yeah. A quarter of an inch just seems really,
Minuscule.
yeah.
I do kind of agree with that.
Some of the other towns, I didn't know we talked about this, you know, Jill and I and Lenore did meet to talk about, other options, like having a municipal-wide sidewalk program, which wasn't well received. There are other options, allowing people to repair their sidewalks. Does the DPW encourage people to do that, or even sidewalk grinding, or shaving they call it, where if it's a quarter inch offset, instead of pulling up that whole slab, replacing it, you can actually just grind it down like.
Right, well, what a lot of people do though, if it's not, if the sidewalk isn't damaged,
Yeah.
they lift it and they regrade underneath and just drop it back down.
Yeah.
It's not all that expensive.
Yeah.
And I think many of the violations that happen are that, where it has to be replaced, if the sidewalk is actually broken, or if there's
Cracked,
like major
yeah.
crack in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not mine, though.
Smaller than yours.
They're gonna be there. And then, of course, where you get into that kind of more, I think, a little bit of a difficult issue is when you have a perfect slab that is raised 1, 2, 3, 4 inches, 5, you know, how, because of a root. And to do that, raising it and then trying to regrade underneath becomes difficult, because you don't wanna compromise the integrity of the tree by cutting a major root.
Mhm.
And that's where I think that's one of the major points of discussion. And that's why I brought up what the shade tree and what the DPW has been trying to do for the last several years, which is using more discretion and having a real procedure behind the trees that are planted, you know, next to the sidewalks.
Mhm.
So to try and mitigate that in the future. However, we have these incredible, beautiful 50, 100-year-old trees that were planted long ago and are causing havoc. And that's something that I'm not so sure that's something that we can remedy in an ordinance, but it's definitely a problem.
I mean, requiring, you know, if you're a homeowner and you have to replace 6 slabs, those 6 slabs should be ADA compliant. But maybe all the other existing slabs should just be given a little more maintenance, you know?
No.
Yeah,
Wait, no, I'm not,
Would you just-
I'm
Yeah.
not following, so the first 6 you get,
No, so if you're putting in new slabs, they should meet ADA compliance, your new slabs. If you have to
so
put in-
let's talk about what ADA standards are, right? Because new construction of sidewalks has a whole separate set of specifications that is in a separate part of the borough code. There's schematics
Mhm.
and visuals that are on the borough website, right? And so new sidewalks have to deal with those. ADA is really the question of from one to the other, right? Is there a lip, is there a change in rise? Are they firm, are they flat, are there cracks or crevices that could cause a trip hazard or could catch your heel, cane, or other mobility device, right? So a new slab theoretically should not have any of those concerns, right? And the new construction would be required to comply with our sidewalk specifications.
I wanna go back to Amy's point about the trees. I am very grateful that DPW now has the technology and the capability and the understanding to actually check for if there's a water line under there, and to have a more professional view of where these plantings are going. I know we had to put in maybe 10 years ago, and they are no longer placed on my side of the street in the little right-of-way, they're actually in our front yard. And it's because, 50 years ago, we didn't have this technology, we wouldn't realize the problems or the amount of storms we would get today and where we would be as far as them causing sidewalks to heave.
Yeah, but it's also worse than that. I mean, I had $6,000 repair about 10 years ago because one of the trees' roots ran into my sewage line.
Yeah.
And I had to get the whole lateral replaced, which was a lot of money. So it happens to all of us, so that, just that, just the insight and the planning and this new, the thoughtfulness that goes into these tree plantings now, it's not haphazard, there's much more thought. I mean, with Shade Tree, working with Shade Tree for the appropriate trees to be planted, and then the appropriate location for these trees to be planted is a big difference than it's ever been. I think it's better than it's ever been.
Were we also proposing changes to the notice itself? So there was going to be the updated language of the ordinance to match the procedure which we currently follow and which we have followed. But I also recall requesting that we update the actual paper that's left, that would include the phone number and information about if you receive this notice, you may call.
Yes, absolutely, and that, you're absolutely right, Mayor, and, that level of detail isn't generally in our ordinances, but yes, as
Right.
part of the FAQ, education, communication process, also making that clear so that property owner's not home at the time that the sidewalk inspector has gone out to look at it, that they would, be aware that they can call and request an appointment in the sidewalk.
What else would we like to do? What else are we considering?
Would we consider putting any language in the proposed ordinance as to reporting, as to the mechanism for reporting, and perhaps specifying that anonymous reports are not permitted, as well as public disclosure?
I don't think that we can prohibit anonymous complaints of prospective violations of borough ordinances, this or any other property maintenance. To the extent that we wanted to compile some sort of data about the types of complaints that are made, which are, how many are made, anonymous. I mean, that's something we could put in the ordinance, not put in the ordinance, but, it's something that we can decide to have DPW track. I know the court orders tend to be handwritten, right, just because of how they're done generally. So we could do some kind of data collection, but I don't think we can prohibit an anonymous complaint. And I don't think necessarily maybe we want to, right?
Sure.
Because especially, right, you may be the person right next to this property and any property, right, pick a property, worst sidewalks you've ever seen, but you don't want your neighbor to know that you called and for them to get mad at you and start a conflict with your neighbor, and that's not necessarily a great situation either.
So we have to update the peace and good order ordinance again.
And that's again my concern, getting in the middle of somewhat civil disputes. This is a little bit different of a situation. My concern goes to the weaponization of complaints. That if it's used to target, and I'm not saying that that's the situation here, we obviously don't know motives, but targeting certain properties and property owners, and I'm trying to think of ways that we can limit that as much as we can and to ensure as much transparency as possible so that when complaints are coming in, that the homeowners who are aggrieved by these understand where it's coming from and as much detail about it as possible.
Well, I think the detail and the understanding would be that, yes, your sidewalk does have an issue. So I don't really know why you would need to know the genesis of who turned it in. Because then what if it was a borough employee? Are they gonna then come and they're gonna go after a borough employee? I mean, I don't want people to feel that you need to go out and get retribution for, mandatory property maintenance that you're well aware that you're responsible for.
That, absolutely, and I completely agree, because the way that things are done is that if a complaint is made by someone or anonymously, once that complaint is made, then it is the borough's responsibility to go take a look. So, then it becomes, then if there is a problem or a violation, the borough is saying the complaint is correct, there is a violation. If the borough is going out and there were no violations
Right,
or
we're
anything,
taking their word for it.
then it would be like, then I could see people getting, really angry about the complaint, but because of the process, because then it triggers the borough to go out and to inspect, I don't know, I'm just not sure. I mean, I hear what you're saying 100%, I absolutely hear what you're saying, but, I'm not so sure. I agree with Jen that the anonymous is important, whistleblower laws, all that kind of stuff, like there's
And the fact of the
something
matter
about
is,
protecting
complaints
people.
have been, I understand this is an unusual, but complaints have been coming into the borough for decades about garbage from the garbage cans are flowing into my driveway, and the grass is too long, and, it happens every day. I'm saying every day, I don't mean every day.
And not
but-
just with sidewalks.
Not just-
There was an issue with dumpsters, and they're not being cleared in time, and now we have a rat problem, and it's this person's fault, and that person's fault.
It's a regular part of the borough and the DPW's day, dealing with something's not right, and that's why I want to make a phone call about it. And people have that right to do that. I said, this is unusual in terms of the way, but it is a day in and day out activity in the borough.
So the inspector gets called to a home, right? And they inspect the sidewalk and they say, yep, you've got 8 slabs that are bad. Does the inspector have blinders on? Does he not look at the sidewalks at this guy's house and this lady's house? Is he only going to inspect the sidewalk on that particular property that was reported? And even though he can see the 2 properties next to them that have terrible slabs, he's not gonna cite them, he's only gonna cite the people who were reported? Cause that seems a little unfair.
Agreed, except then okay, I hear you. So then we'd have to say, okay, to the inspector, when you go to look, like, how far are we gonna say that they, like, where do they end
Well,
looking?
exactly.
So then we'd say, like, you look to your house to the right of you and to the left of you, but that's where it stops, or look at the whole block,
I
or
don't
look
know.
at both sides,
That's
look
a
at
good question.
so, and that's where, it becomes, one of the things that we can, next budget season is we can look at the role of the inspector. They do a lot already. They wear many hats. The person who does the sidewalk inspecting now that's not their sole job. But when it comes to budget season, if we wanna allocate more funds and resources to a more borough-wide inspection, that's something that we can definitely, I think, talk about. But as it is right now, as what I've been told, that we don't have the bandwidth with the department that we have right now to do a full borough-wide inspection. That's why we do it this way. Historically, most municipalities do it this way for the same reasons. So, if we wanna add another job and create more personnel, that's something that we definitely should look at in next budget season, for sure.
That was I appreciated that point. Amy and I had discussed that at length on Tuesday. And then Amy had also floated the idea of, at that point, we make it someone's full-time job to just, walk the streets and do all these inspections. And with that, they're still acting upon reported complaints. We can't eliminate that whole, the trigger of why the inspector is there. Because we have a duty to act when we are told that there is a hazard which exists. But again, and Eleanor explained that very well, like, we would have to then include that in the budget season. Like, this year's budget is, it's done, and all that money is allocated, and we don't have monies allocated to, you know, sending off our sidewalk inspector to make that his one and only function in his daily work routine. But going forward, if that's the way this body wants to move, that would be an option for the next budget cycle. So you can always keep that in mind. What other points? How do I feel like we're missing one? I know we went over the notice, the ordinance.
I mean, if there was the question, Mayor, if we wanted to discuss it, I know it's, Councilmember Paul, alluded to it, the question of, do we want to do some sort of sidewalk improvement program? And, you know, the borough, had, you know, previously, probably, Lenore, 25 years ago, maybe a little more. For those of you who recall, last year we went through an assessment process with respect to lead service lines.
This is very distracting.
To the extent that we wanted to engage in some sort of sidewalk assessment, the process for that is that we would have to identify properties to be specially assessed for the installation of sidewalks. The borough would have to bond for the money because the contractor would require to be paid up front, so the borough would incur the debt. There would be an assessment or a lien placed on the property owner's house. They could repay it over a period of years. There's assessment commissioners that then come in and determine what the exact right amount of the assessment is before the assessment or the lien is placed on the house. Then the tax department is sending out separate bills for the assessment separately from the tax bills. So there are engineering, procurement, and financing costs to the borough up front. There's also a fair amount of implementation,
Administrative
challenges.
is,
Yeah.
is
It's a fairly significant process, and I think that, some may be under the impression that we could like go out and get bids and then that company would just honor that price for a private homeowner, and that's not really something that we're able to, you know, negotiate collective pricing on someone else's behalf. That's not an option that's open to us. So to the extent that we were going to do a wider construction program, it would go through an assessment commissioners.
Which would have to be created by ordinance and then adopted and then, so that's like a 6-month, 8-month.
It's a fairly substantial process.
Time-wise and financially. Okay, so, does anyone else at the table have input or an opinion as to the ordinance that we have corrected, updated? Does anyone else have any comments as far as those?
I think the updates were excellent.
So what time is it right now?
7:35.
Right, so should we open to public comment? since I believe that most of you are here with regard to the sidewalk. Now that you have heard the proposed, pieces that we can make to our process and to our ordinance to make everything consistent and to make everything more, easier to understand, what is, if anyone has a comment from the public now, you can raise your hand and, sorry, I can't turn my hand.
You want me to handle it from this side?
Yes, raise your hand.
Just 20 seconds, because I know a lot of people here for a lot of
Name and
different issues.
address.
What's that?
Name and address, please.
Greg, 38 DeYoung Road, Bone Rock, New Jersey. So first, I just want to, 20 seconds, I just want to thank everybody at the table for every viewpoint, side, all taken in, really just, not just on behalf of me, but people have come up to me who have told me that, couldn't be here tonight, that they were thankful for you guys doing this. It's not just a me issue, so thank you for that. One comment, if there was a concern about the police being too involved, possibly skipping that part entirely and just making maybe perhaps a certification or an affidavit requirement or something like that.
So we're talking about peace and good order, right?
Yes, correct. So to go straight to the municipal court and just take the police out of it completely so you don't overburden the resources. Just an idea, no need to address, just something, because I know we talk about it another time. Just an idea. But whatever you decide, I'm trying not to cry here. I'm just so thankful, thank you.
That's a very helpful suggestion, Greg.
Thank you.
Too many attorneys in the room.
Always the case.
I'm going back around, because I'm trying, so over here.
Hi, I'm Joan, 51 Chadwick Place. I want to say that last night I did attend the Shade Tree Advisory Committee meeting and had the pleasure of meeting Candy. I'm surprised that they have not been involved in this up to this point. When I went, I explained what was going on and that we're not looking to just clarify the ordinance, or the code. We're looking to make some positive changes because it must affect at least 95% of the community. And seeing the picture of that huge tree on Thurston that fell over on June 1st and seeing those nice new slabs right next to it is concerning. And I had the pleasure of listening to Terry Higgins, who I'm sure the council knows. Part of the committee is also Bob Buono, who is not there, and Ms. Martin is the liaison. But I'm concerned about the future of trees and sidewalks, and so I think it goes beyond just updating to the code. I would love to have their committee be involved, especially Terry. He talked about toppings. I know that the person who sent out these notices now has had her sidewalks inspected, and that some people have been trying to smooth over that small 1/4 inch elevation, and that's not allowed. But that he was talking about other materials that can be used that are durable, sturdy. He made suggestions about, and I think other people have said that, about how to swerve around the side of the tree. I showed them my violation notice and where it says about grinding roots. They were very concerned. I wasn't feeling well, I was watching from home, and it was also mentioned that you're talking about planting 50 trees around town. My understanding at the meeting last night was that this is not the proper time to be planting trees, really. And they were surprised that those trees were cut down and now new trees are being planted. So, the trees.
I have to interrupt you a little bit though, Joan, I'm sorry. And Candy, I don't know if there was misinformation happening, but the Shade Tree has been an advisory council to this body and to the DPW for many, many years.
And the head of the DPW is on the committee.
And one of the reasons why I stated clearly that there have been changes to the procedure of how trees are planted by the DPW is straightly due to many of the recommendations of the Shade Tree Committee over the many years.
Mhm.
So I think I don't think it's fair to say that this committee has not been at all used to advise. They have.
No,
Actually, also, the type of trees, the species of trees that are planted come from a direct recommendation from the Shade Tree
Yes,
Committee.
definitely.
So it's,
But they didn't know about the sidewalk issue
Well,
that
that's-
we're talking about.
Right, well, that's
And
because,
some positive changes that can be
Right.
made, not just let's clarify the code, but what can we do to
Mhm.
make sure that this is not, I mean, it is a continuing problem. So I don't mean to be disrespectful at all.
No,
I
no.
think they were a wonderful committee.
they're
And-
the best,
And
they're
this
the best.
Terry and
That's all right,
Candy
I
and
just wanna
Terry.
make sure that they're getting
No.
some credit, because they
No.
have been extremely.
And they were also
um,
talking about like not
grateful.
planting trees on the right of way, planting them on
Correct.
homeowners' property.
We
So there's a
changed
lot
the
of
under
things
the
to be
wire
looked at.
lines.
Which we do
Right.
now, that's
So
been
I
done.
don't just think
Mm-hmm.
that the answer here is just clarifying the code.
Well,
I
you're
think
100% right.
Right,
That
okay,
you're
but I'm
100% right.
concerned that that's what we're moving towards doing.
There, when it comes to, that's what I was I didn't, clearly I didn't say it well enough. But when it comes to the opportunity for when slabs are not broken and don't have to be replaced, but they could be, the underneath the slab can be can be resurfaced and leveled. Sometimes that's not possible because of the tree roots, and that is an area where absolutely, and I know we've talked about this, Candy and Terry, about, different sidewalks maybe going around the trees, because it is extremely important that we don't grind or break the
Right,
very
and
important
instead
roots.
of
So we're
rushing
not
for
done with it.
homeowners to have to replace these slabs, and maybe not in the best way.
Right, or take the tree
because-
down, right.
Right, and I would love to know what the borough is paying to repair those slabs on Doremus.
That's different.
I think
But
that's
just to
an
your point
interesting
about the
question,
trees-
because we had talked about that it's very costly for each individual homeowner as opposed to doing some, I've taken up enough time, I'm sorry.
No, I do,
But I
if
think they
may
would be a great resource to help us in
100%,
planning.
and they are the
Because
best
we wanna
resource for
make
that.
positive changes, we're not just here
Sure.
to say, yeah, we got the speeding ticket and somebody else didn't.
No,
But,
of course.
because we need to look at the health and safety of people and the trees and our town, because we
You're
love it.
absolutely
So-
right, and when it comes to the trees that are healthy, that are displacing the sidewalks, I agree with you, we haven't addressed that specifically, and that I think is something that we do need to.
Well, I think the department has to address that.
Yes, the
because they go
department
out
does.
regularly
But
and-
we have
and
to
make
say,
determinations
I guess,
about that.
we have to say that it's okay if instead of taking the tree down, that maybe we do something either with the material of the sidewalk that we use in that space, or rerouting the sidewalk around that space. I mean, that's what we have to, right, isn't that something, we don't have that in our ordinance, or
It wouldn't be in our
or it would just be in a
That's policy.
procedure, a
That's
policy thing?
That's not important.
Yeah, so we do have to
And-
address that, I would imagine.
And
with
that
Bob.
if there's
I
a
mean,
material that could perhaps be used to according to Terry, to safely level out that in some instances, that it's worth exploring.
Yeah.
Not only for us, but for everybody. We're trying to make a positive change. We don't wanna come across as just complaining that we got the speeding ticket and my next door neighbor didn't. So, thank you for letting me share.
Me? Okay, so I don't agree that comparison is. Name and address, my name is Tanya, 52 Andover Terrace, Glen, New Jersey, obviously. We are 11th year in the town, and we probably would never meet any of you if not this sidewalk issue, so I'm really glad we get a chance to meet each other. And I actually was expecting a little bit of different outcome, because, so I have a comment and I have two questions. The comment is, I don't agree with comparing this issue to the issue of speeding ticket. A simple reason is, as you put it, you are afraid that your kids will, fall on the speed on these sidewalks, and the nature of our town is very shady tree town, right? So you can't find 100 feet of the sidewalk without the issue. So I don't understand how me fixing my issues on Andover Terrace will help anybody else in town to feel safe walking the town. So I expected that town will take some steps to, to make town safe for walking for everybody, because a lot of people are moving to this town because they're all, our kids will be able to bike, our kids will be able to walk to school. There are a lot of elderly people in town, so I don't understand how fixing of this particular patch of town will make the town safer for everybody else, because it's just maybe like 26 houses. And then the question, if we are talking about safety of walking, why the patchwork is not allowed? Because it will make perfectly safe walking surface if you just make a little bridge of cement over this, uneven walks. So I don't understand why it's
Are
not allowed.
patching and grinding prohibited by our policy?
That's what I understood, that DPW doesn't allow it.
Do we know about that?
And
I didn't, this is tonight's.
So those are things, those are points we should clarify, because those are.
It's in the violation notice. It says patching is not allowed.
reset or replace.
That's the kind of thing that I think,
Patching.
grinding and
Grinding
patching,
is
we should.
also?
No, grinding is a different story.
I
because-
asked about grinding and he said no.
Why?
No.
Why?
I am.
I don't know, I'm not detailed.
Hold on, grinding is allowed.
But she just said it's not.
No.
No, I asked if I can shave it off and he said no.
You're
Isn't that
talking-
grinding?
Yeah.
No, I thought you were talking
it
about
doesn't
grinding.
feel like it is about safety. It feels like, because
I
safety
asked
can be
him
achieved
exactly
in
that
many
question.
different
I said,
ways.
hold on.
By updating the policy.
And the last question I have, one of our slabs, it's very simplistic question, but I would like to hear your thoughts about it. It's huge tree that lifts the sidewalk. So what should we do? I don't want to remove the tree. I love the tree. I don't want to shave the roots because it's obviously, like, I'm not a tree specialist, my specialty in biology is different, but even common sense tells you if you cut the roots, the tree will fall. So what am I supposed to do? I don't understand, like, I can't even the sidewalk without removing the tree. Thank you.
I just wanna make one response. So it's not just the, sorry, I can't turn, I'm trying. It's not just the homes in your area that receive violations. There are spots all over town. I walk down to Remus and there's little X's, and that means that someone has come and inspected there. So it's not specific to your neighborhood.
Because initially the complaints were made in our neighborhood, moreover, like.
That was one set of complaints.
Mhm.
That was just one day of him going out and doing his inspections. He's out twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So every Tuesday and Thursday, he's got a list that he's scratching off and addressing. So.
He's making new complaints.
So maybe it should be
Anyone,
addressed as a town-wide
it's
project.
people all over town, it's not just one individual.
So I have a feeling at this point, it's people who got these violations and who are now just vengeful, you know?
It doesn't really matter, but it should be
Certainly in
addressed
some
as a
cases,
town-wide
yes.
project. If you are addressing it as a safety of walking in the town, maybe it should be addressed as a town-wide project, like.
And we discussed that, if
Yes,
we
I
could
get it.
take that on, and we would have to create an assessment commission, and then we would have to bond for this and get financing
That's even
for it.
worse.
And
I'm sorry.
it's a multi-step process. In the meantime, there's still sidewalks that are gonna be out of compliance. And I'm not sure how comfortable everyone is with just letting that all wait until maybe we can get this assessment commission off the ground. If it's possible to even get that done, and the amount of work that would entail, because it has been done once in the past that Lenore could remember, and it didn't go well. It didn't run smoothly. So we did discuss that. And, the borough can't take on the responsibility of fixing every single homeowners, private residents, it's just not feasible from a financial standpoint, unless you're okay with your taxes going up significantly.
Well,
What
I
if
got-
it's
I
due
got
to
used
a
to
town
that.
tree?
I don't think we're gonna I think we need
We're
to.
not yet. Okay,
We need
so
to.
This is a good
let's
question.
keep going. Okay, sorry.
Not
Alright.
allowed to.
Yeah, why is
I have a
patching not
non-trade
allowed?
question.
Can somebody address it?
Well, you already mentioned.
You're together, right?
Yes.
You
We
two
are
are
together.
together? Okay, I'm going to Emily.
Okay. I had a different comment, but
I know, I know, but
No, but that's all right, that's all right. Go ahead.
I'll be very quick. ADA regulations, 1/4 inch, why do you want compliant to ADA? Why not taking some other standard? Do we want to be the only town in USA that's ADA compliant? We won't be. There's not a single other town that's ADA compliant.
Yes,
1/4
yes, there
inch, which stroller cannot go over 1/4 inch? At least 1/2 for the old slabs. Maybe ADA compliance for the new building. But if it's an old existing, why do we have to be compliant strictly to the ADA? Even ADA allows 1/2 inch in many cases. So that's it.
Hi, I'm Emily Cohn, 19 Ashland Place. I wasn't at the May 28th work session, but I did listen to the recording, and now I'm here observing, and I just want to start with 2 observations. One is, thank you to the council for being thoughtful, thinking elected representatives who care about our community. I already see in the response, for example, the critical questions around like, can we shave, can we patch? Those are the critical questions. Thinking, can we get more time? Can we see the ordinance? Can we study it before we vote? That is what I would really encourage more of in this really important issue for our town. The second observation I have is that the people in this room are incredible thinkers as well. You have amazing residents with really good, solid points, great questions, new, fresh ideas, asking for more from our town. And so when we say, what other points haven't we covered, I feel like the answers are in this room, and it goes beyond the people sitting at this table. And I think it's super critical to be able to use the strength of the thinkers and the caring of our collective community to address this issue. Absolutely no disrespect. I'm in higher ed, and we show our love by being critical thinkers and asking critical questions, but I feel like the ordinance as it stands, as it was presented, pretty much unchanged from what was talked about at the May 28th meeting, from what I can understand, is an administrative bureaucratic response. It is solving the problem for the borough to, kind of just like, this is just a matter of communication. We just need to codify what we're already doing. And through the lived experiences of the residents here who have to live with the stress of receiving a violation, not being clear answers, even the implication of like, well, we recommended this, we offered the sidewalk inspector to come out and no one has taken us up on the hopper. We don't want the sidewalk inspector to come and enforce rules that feel haphazard and unfair. That's not gonna really solve anything. So it seems logical from an administrative standpoint, the inspector should just come out and talk with people and explain. From the lived experience perspective, that sidewalk inspector is gonna come out and it's gonna be even more frustrating and stressful and perhaps present even more liability for something that's already an unclear situation. I just wanna say there's a lot of contradictions I've heard tonight, and as thinking, caring, elected representatives of our community, I want you to be able to understand and appreciate these contradictions and the way that I really encourage you to take your time, be thoughtful, planful, and address the comprehensive safety issues. Think more holistically and less in terms of like, we need to fix this administrative issue. For example, it was said any resident can complain, but it can be anonymous. Well, if it's anonymous, how do you know if it's even a resident of Glen and not some outside contact?
It doesn't matter, it can be from anywhere.
Okay, but the word was slippage. It said any resident can claim to be anonymous. We're also conflating the issue between anonymous versus confidential. So maybe the DPW will know the identity of the person, so when you submit it, you have your name, but that could be written in a way that protects that from becoming public information or known to other people. These are like the little nuances that I feel like the council really needs to be thinking expansively and asking really important clarifying questions. We've heard May 28th, it was said we believe most towns don't stipulate any criteria or ordinances. Then we're hearing now most towns, a lot of towns do. Which towns? We need answers. We can't just say, I think this, no, I think that. This needs to be really properly researched and studied. Another one, these are the standards we've been using. When I talked to the sidewalk inspector after receiving a complaint, the sidewalk inspector's words were, hair up. That's what I've been told to do. Hair up is different from 1/4 inch. 1/4 inch is different from talking about an inch that presents a problem for children on scooters, right? We're having a lot of slippage in what are the standards and these things need to be really called out on. We're talking about leveling the ground as a viable solution, but it doesn't get to the fundamental issue with the trees. We're saying the shade tree committee has been consulted, but they're saying we haven't been engaged enough on this particular issue, right? My list can go on, but I won't for the sake of time, because there's other brilliant minds who care and who need a chance to speak as well. But I just wanna call it what it is from my perspective. We need critical thinking on this issue, we need time, we need good data, we need less. I think this might be the law, we need like actual, the state of New Jersey says we can't accept non-anonymous complaints. That should be like a fact, like that should be 100% known to the council, whether that's allowed. I heard I think. So I would like a councilwoman to say like, where in the ordinance does it say in this situation, it can't be done? And I could go on, but I'm gonna leave it at that, so thank you.
I can address one part of that. I researched every single community in Bergen County, and none of them have the standards written in their ordinance. All the ordinances are very vague, that the standards are part of the policy and procedure of the department. What we had to change, because I believe it was your husband that was very aggrieved by the fact that it said in our current ordinance that it has to be done by resolution of the council, and that wasn't done, therefore they should all be tossed. And we needed, that was the easy fix, was like, okay, so what in our ordinance is inconsistent with how we handle things today? And that was why that was the first portion of this. So we are using care and critical thinking. And I am still open to hearing more ideas. Like I like the idea of being able to cut around a tree if that tree is a viable tree. Just because it's old and it's gorgeous doesn't mean it's healthy. So maybe, I know when you have to go get a sidewalk permit, they will come out and inspect that tree and let you know, make that determination for you. So it's not like we just want you to pull down every grand and beautiful tree in town because the sidewalks are most important. I'm sorry if that was the.
That is the lived experience of right now. And if the ordinance doesn't change, that will continue to be the lived experience.
Well, and I'm sorry if that's the impression that you're getting, is that it's more important that we have all these sidewalks than we do trees, because that's not the case. We will keep moving, and because we have, what time is it?
7:58.
Can we do this side of the room this time?
Yeah,
Last
I
time
have
we
a
did
non-tree question that pertains to your agenda.
Yes, go.
Thank you.
Quickly.
I will be quick. Your piece of paper says a written resolution of liquor license renewals, and yet on the website, your agenda, I could not find it.
Because it was added?
Yes, but it wasn't updated on the website.
Well,
Sometimes
that does happen, because the agenda, is that in the consent agenda? So it
It's
says
on
at
your
the very
agenda,
top.
it's under a resolution on your piece of paper,
Okay.
resolution number 6, but it's not on the
Right,
website.
so we can give you a copy of that now. What will happen oftentimes, and it says at the top, agenda may be subject to change, because sometimes things come in at the last minute and they have to be added on, so it's not on the one that was published to the website, because that's not done by anyone at this table.
Right, but were you guys planning on discussing it at all in
No.
the main meeting? So how are we supposed to know what it is if we're at home, or even it's nowhere? Like, I don't know what the resolution of your liquor license pertains to.
When did that
We
go
did that
on?
last year, at last meeting, because the resolution,
We did
in the
it last
packet, it's
meeting.
already done.
Well, there's conflict here.
There's
I mean,
They come in not at the same time, and it's people they apply in the normal course.
So they're individual businesses.
We have to approve, every year you have to get. your
Individual
license.
business, it's not a blanket, we're renewing.
Oh, God, no. Every year
That's
they
right.
have to send a check and renew their
Okay.
liquor license, and if they don't do that, then they can be fined.
So that's what, on your agenda, number 6 pertains to a
Yes, and
specific business.
that's why it's on the
Okay.
consent agenda, because it's just kind of part of like a typical.
Right, but as a resident, I wanna know what you're voting on. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm gonna say two things inside
Yeah.
that I need to make sure people know, so we're adding something to the tax reporting. We have a new Unidex system, and we're going to add the ability for folks to include a second address to, like if you have a contact, so if you have when you get your insurance, they say, do you wanna add a secondary address? And it's a lot of times for people who might not remember to do something.
Okay.
It came up in senior advisory, And so we're adding it, and it's going out in the weekly e-blast this week, that we're adding this new service
Perfect.
to residents in town, probably intended for other residents, but any resident can avail themselves of it, so we're doing that. And I'm also gonna be talking about some stuff that's been going on at the Arboretum, injured wildlife, and a fire that was started by youths. And I'm going to talk about, please talk to your children. So I'm just telling you now because I'm gonna, it's not department reports, but I'm gonna be speaking to it at the meeting inside.
Perfect.
And that's my.
So it's 8 o'clock, can we
Yep.
get a motion to adjourn this work session and come back?
Christine.
We have to go out, we have, the kids are waiting outside, we have to read the thought winners.
But what if I ask questions?
Right, let's, we're swearing in a new captain of our police department. I'm sorry, like, this is what
Well,
happens.
what do we do now? Do we wait or what?
Is the clock still running on this?
I'm just talking about the sidewalk. Yes, we're going to do the meeting out there, then we're gonna come back to the work session.
Wait a minute, how long is that gonna take?
I don't know.
Because I'm really not well and I have really important questions.
I think let's
Okay,
take
yeah.
these two, please.
Yes, go.
Okay, so let's.
Barbara got me 2 weeks in place in Glen. Okay, I had a violation that said I need 16 slabs reset or replaced and 1 slab replaced, okay? Not one of my slabs is broken, not one of my slabs has any cracks or anything. There is 1 slab that is raised higher, okay? But no inspector ever rang my bell, no inspector ever contacted me. I called DPW, they never got back to me, so what do? I just had major surgery, my bills are crazy. I cannot afford to
Barbara,
replace this.
I'm gonna call the inspector tomorrow, I'm gonna call our director tomorrow, and I'm going to arrange a meeting with the inspector to come to your house, and so you can talk to him. Is that what would you like?
I would like
Is
to
it-
know what I'm supposed to
Yes.
do. Is this on hold for now, or what?
Yes, I will do that for you tomorrow.
And what is your name?
Amy.
Amy. All right, because like I said, no one ever contacted me. I just got the violation notice, and I have been hysterical over this. There's no way I can afford it.
I know, we will work with you, I'm on it, okay?
Christine, maybe
All right,
this is
Amy, I
the
hope
third
so.
meeting.
We will.
Maybe we can find a different time or place where this is the one and only specific issue we can talk about. We're on meeting number 3 and not a whole lot has progressed.
Right.
There's multiple reasons for that, because at each work session, we have an agenda that we need to follow, because there is other borough business that needs to happen. This gentleman will attest to the fact that his issue's been kicked down the road for 2 years. We're trying to. What's that? Yeah, yes. You want a special meeting just on sidewalks?
I think there's enough
Yes.
people,
Easier way to
I
do
think
it.
there's enough people
Yes, Tom,
here
what do you think?
to,
Well,
Go back to the way it was done when Van Kuren was mayor, where the council work session was on a different night, 2 days before the public meeting. You didn't have this one meeting leading into the next one, and you simply did council work session. Everybody got to ask their questions, everybody stayed until all the questions had been asked and all the issues had been aired. And then you had a couple of days to get things in order
I agree.
before the
However,
actual public meeting
we've
took place.
already advertised for the year. So I actually saw that Norwood does they call it gripe night, which is,
that's not a good.
I don't wanna invite people just to come and scream, but I mean, it's gonna happen regardless. Maybe we could put on a special meeting for once a month where it is just simply people coming in and speaking, similar to a work session without an agenda. We can consider that, or we can meet like, once a month.
But I think to answer your question, if it's
Yeah.
necessary or not, this is the 3rd meeting where like 80% of the room is filled with people who are here specifically for one reason.
Right.
So maybe it should be that case that we set up a special meeting just for this one issue. So I've been sitting in this corner for the last 2 meetings and we have not made it around that I could speak or that people on this side could speak because time runs out.
That's why I moved.
We need to,
Someone said
wait,
don't
Monica's
leave.
first, she has a babysitter, so let's just.
Thank you, I appreciate
appreciate that. Amanda Markoulis, I live at 305 Rock Road. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for everything that you're doing here tonight. As concerned taxpayers, my husband and I would like to bring attention to a few significant concerns that come to mind regarding setbacks, quiet periods, safety, ethics, and community impact to the prospective Glen Rock Public Library renovation. We have questions that relate specifically to our situation as a neighbor, which we have emailed Lenora for the council's consideration, but also important concerns that impact the community at large. We've been advocates for the library elevator renovation for the past 5 years, with the core of the issue maintaining and also providing an ADA accessible place for all people. Our library is a wonderful place, and we want it to be a safe place for people of all ages and abilities. What we were not prepared for when we moved to our home almost 10 years ago on the already very busy and sometimes dangerous Rock Road was the creation of a covered staircase where people could sit in the shadows of this public building, or even the creation of a 24-hour municipal annex, literally 6 feet from our property line. Multiple people involved in the financial process inferred that the $100,000 of funding required to complete this elevator project was, which we think from the town, could build a public space accessible outside of the standard library hours to essentially create a municipal annex. We want to know, first of all, is that true? We are concerned that a municipal annex will pose a greater risk of fire and also increased security, especially trespassing. We want to know what steps are being taken towards that issue. Members of the Glen Rock Public Library have now informed us that the construction is going to begin on July 21st. Why were the design and plans not disclosed to the public before now? Why has the bidding process been so secretive? Who is accountable for informing the public? How and why was this architect selected? Was there a competitive bidding process? Is it true that he was a former library trustee? Why is it that this process has not become more transparent to the public? We also want to know the qualifications and the considerations to become a trustee of the Glen Rock Public Library. If this is not an elected position, why can they make such significant financial decisions without any public scrutiny? We want to know what the town requires for the observance of quiet hours next to a residence. What is the structural setbacks required between a resident and the library itself? In addition, the information regarding the renovation plans, funding, and design do not seem to exist in one transparent place. The library trustees defer to the library director, who then defers us to the town, and then the director, who does not know which person or department is responsible for keeping this information, and why the trustees have made the library director, why haven't the trustees made the library director aware of what's happening? Which makes us question, who exactly is responsible for this project? We are looking for and we need accountability and transparency. And perhaps the most relevant and impactful to every taxpayer in Glen Rock is the financial viability of this project. The town is risking $100,000 in financial resources by issuing bonds at taxpayer expense plus interest. We are greatly concerned about the investment and the issuance of debt to fund this project. To obtain any information, we have coordinated and paid for a litany of babysitters for my 4 and 5-year-old while we go to town hall, library and trustee council meetings to voice these concerns. We have yet to see a town council or planning board agenda made public aside from the original failed bid process in which this topic has been discussed. We constantly ask the library directors, new and old, and the board to be transparent with us and the community on how the architect was selected, along with the architectural plan, itemized budget, and construction plan. We are also neighbors in good standing with the library and community at large, constantly volunteering at the library, central school, the arts council, and we privately contribute to the Friends of the Public Library. We believe there should be a dedicated agenda item added to the next council meeting in which the library board and council can be transparent with all Glen Rock residents.
Okay,
Thank you.
First off, I'm going to have Lenora, you should reach out to Lenora because she has all that information. I can assist with many of those documents you're requesting because this began in 2017, when the Library Bond Act came out. And we went out and did an RFP for architects, and by municipal contracts law, you have to go with the lowest responsive bidder.
For construction.
For construction.
Not for
And then, well, they did an RFP for professional services as well. That was all done to the trustees, and that was 2 directors ago?
Ellen.
Yes, Ellen.
Yeah, I was here advocating during that time.
There was an open forum held at the library where they showed all the plans.
Right.
And,
But since then it's changed, so I've been made aware. But I've gone now to zoning and they don't have a copy of it.
Public. The only thing that's changed is because because the bids came out so high.
Yes.
That had to be bumped back to the architect, so they could actually take some away. Take some elements away, so the bid would fit into our grants, and that's, you know.
But there's no plan, but they're starting construction till I-20.
They're using the,
No.
there are
I think we
drawings.
have to go.
All right,
Yeah,
so
and
we
we
can-
have got to.
We just
have
got your
to go.
email today, and this was the first time we're hearing
Yeah,
about all
I
of
haven't,
these
we have
questions.
gone to everything, and I've been at the trustee
haven't-
meetings, and
I
I talked about the covered stairwell at the meeting
And this
3
covered
months ago.
stairwell, I motion to take in.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, that's not what Tracy told me when I
Suspend or
went
we
to
come back?
zoning.
This is a very exciting night. I appreciate you all being here. But before we get to our readathon winners, well, first thing I have to do is call this meeting to order. So be patient. Welcome to the June 11th public meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Glen Rock. This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. This meeting was noticed in the Bergen Record, Star Ledger, posted on the Borough website, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as per the required notices under the statute. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Martin,
Here.
Councilmember Gilbreth,
Oh, sorry, I took yours.
Councilmember
Here.
Orlick,
Here.
Councilmember Cole,
Here.
Councilmember Rosansky,
Here.
Councilmember Rosenstein.
Here.
I'm going to ask the Trover family to lead us in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So before we get into the Trover family's lovely event tonight, we have to start with our readathon winners because I know we have a fun fair going on right now. It's also a school night, and I know some of you are littles, so we want you to make sure you go to bed for your mom and dad, especially after all that reading, which you've done. So are we doing them first, or are we doing them second? Oh, you know what? Who wants to swear in Sergeant Trover to captain first? Because this is a kind of event where the more people we have in the room, the more special it will be to his family and him specifically. So I'm going to start there. So I first have to say it's an honor and a privilege to be with you tonight as we are going to take a moment to recognize a significant Tonight's a very significant milestone for our Glen Rock Police Department. This evening, we have the great pleasure of swearing in Sergeant Michael Trover as the next captain of the Glen Rock Police Department. We have not had a captain in a very long time. So, Sergeant, actually, I'm going to refer to him as Sergeant until he's officially sworn in. Sergeant Trover has served our community with integrity, with professionalism, and an unwavering commitment to public safety. His leadership, his character, and his dedication to this borough earned him the respect of his colleagues, the respect of our residents, and the utmost respect of this governing body. So tonight's ceremony is more than a formality. It is a testament to years of hard work, years of leadership, years of service. So at this time, I'd like to invite Sergeant Trover and his family to join us down front as we begin the swearing in, unless, of course, the chief wants to start talking. No? Perfect. Do we have the Bible? It's in my office. Matt, did you bring a family Bible or anything? Okay.
I have the Constitution.
Okay. Well, all right, because I have mine in my office in case. All right, so I'm coming on down. Yep. I got this.
So cute.
I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully,
Congratulations.
Yes.
Captain, do you want a picture with your law enforcement brethren?
We're gonna get them outside, so this way, we'll get the meeting going. Thank you.
Oh, wait.
No, it's.
So, do you wanna, so. Christine? Yeah. Stay down there and start the recording.
Oh, okay.
And you did all this other stuff without a mic. And where do you want me to turn the podium around? Thank you for coming. Thank you so much for being here. Guys, come up. So everyone that's been waiting can go find seats now. It's my neck. Thank you. Hey, George. Great job on the post today. Hi, Phil. No, wait one moment. All right, so I have a little neck and a back issue, so since I'm already down here, I'm just going to stay down here. So along with the pleasure of recognizing our newest captain of our police department, we have to recognize some of Glen Rock's youngest and most enthusiastic readers. These remarkable children took part in our annual readathon, devoting their time, their energy, and their imagination to the simple but powerful act of reading. And now I looked at all of your certificates, and I want to speak to some of your moms about how they got you to read so much and raised so much money. It is so important to take part in this. So in a world full of distractions, to see that kids are still choosing books, it means so much. They turn pages, you've explored new worlds, and you have strengthened your capacity for lifelong learning. Kids who read, kids that read often, are the most successful. Remember that, and then keep reading more.
So on behalf of the Borough Council and our entire community, congratulations to each and every one of you. We are proud of your hard work, and I can't wait to see where your dedication to reading takes you next. So let's give everyone that's here for the readathon tonight a very well-deserved round of applause. And I'm gonna use my mayoral privilege tonight because this is my last readathon with my kids. You guys are in 5th grade. You're graduating from Byrd in 2 weeks. This is a moment. I think we have pictures together every year of me handing you a certificate. So if you'll indulge me, I would like to start with Madeline Morico, gold level reader who read 103 hours, 6,201 minutes. Get up here, Maddie. And in case you didn't know, I have twins. So my second certificate is for Mr. Braden Morico, who's in the corner with his buddy. Gold level reader, 5,680 minutes, 95 hours. Congratulations. You're gonna have to put that up for me. That one. I have Oscar. No, you can't say it. Hold that up. Smile. Yes. Okay. Oh, you brought those. And then my last dear birdie, because me and Teresa have to split Byrd because we both live on your side of town, is Oscar. I want to make sure I say this right. Hochleitner. I've always been saying Hoschler. Okay. Oscar, come on up. You read 5,200 minutes, 87 hours. And I also want to congratulate Oscar, Maddie, and Braden because the three of you just killed it last weekend in The Wizard of Oz. So, let me ask Teresa. Hold on, there's one more kid from their class. You're going to do it. Never mind. Hold on. No, let Teresa do it. We have to split up because we have to equally share. So I took you guys and Oscar. Teresa's going to take over now for the rest of the birdies. Are you going to do it from up there? Or are you coming down?
I'm coming down.
All right, so Teresa's going to come down. We're not done with Byrd yet.
All right. All right, all you Byrd School kids. Who's here from Byrd School? That was pretty weak, just so you know. That was pretty weak. All right, so Councilmember Jill Orlick and I are going to do this. If there's a parent who wants a photo, come up when your child comes up. If you don't want a photo, then just stay in your seat. That'll be fine. All right, are we all ready? All right, again, this is very weak. Have you been sitting here too long? All right, so my first certificate is for Faye Brennan. And Faye, 5,000, hold your applause, 5,582 minutes, 93 hours. All right, Faye, ready? Good? All right, thank you, Faye, congratulations. All right, next I have Julia Donovan. Julia's not here? All right, then I'm just going to put that over here. She's at the fun fair. She's at the fun fair.
Better
Well,
options.
all right, how about Ava Lorenzo? Ava! So, Ava raised $368.15 and read 3,563 minutes to be a gold level sponsor and a silver level reader. So congratulations, Ava. All right, next, Lara Lee Kokaga. All right, oh, I gotta go back here. Lara read for 6,027 minutes or 100 hours to be a gold level reader. Congratulations. All right, next, Sanya Kashyap. There we are. All right.
You're still in two.
Did I do that right? Did I get your name right? Not quite? Huh? Sanat. Sanat. I'm taking corrections up here. Okay. So 5,010 minutes, 84 hours for a gold level reader. Congratulations. Okay, perfect. Next up, Alina Satar. Alina read 6,218 minutes and raised $200. Alina, good job. All right, perfect. Next up, Rose Pollock. Rose Pollock raised $185.40. Is Rose in the audience? Rose is at the fair. All right. There we go. Niall Nguyen? Did I say it right? Win? Niall Win. Again, another correction. Raised $1,171 as a gold level sponsor. Niall, that is fabulous. Niall, don't go away. And we're smiling. Excellent. Thank you very much. All right. Next one is Kenley Messier. Kenley's raised $310. Good job. I promise not to bite. Want to come over here and turn around and take your certificates? Smile. Thank you. All right, and my last one, Marie Verde. Marie raised $201, and she's now a gold level sponsor. All right, and next up, Jill Orlick.
Hi, everybody. I have one more bunch of bird readers. The first is Mateo Maleeves. Mateo is a first grader. Mieves? Mateo Mieves. Thank you. He is a gold level sponsor and a silver level reader. He raised $165 and read for 68 hours. Congratulations. Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Anna Glazer.
Our junior mayor.
Anna read 90 hours and raised $150. Congratulations, Anna. Need a picture? Next, I have Ricardo Ragnini. Ricardo read for 108 hours and is a gold level reader. Congratulations. Next, we have Charlotte Reger. Charlotte? Reger? Okay. Natalie Shea. Natalie is with Charlotte. Zafia Sitar. Zafia read for 103 hours and raised $210. Congratulations. And then Teddy Hockluter. Teddy read for 86 hours and is a gold level reader. Congratulations, Teddy. And last for me is Eliza Smith. Eliza read for 102 hours and is a gold level reader. Congratulations, Eliza. Oh, and next we have Councilmember Elizabeth Cole.
Where are my Hamilton families? Anybody? Woo! All right, our first award goes to Harper Unger. Harper read 3,540 minutes for a total of 59 hours and raised $150, and you're a gold level sponsor and silver level reader. Next up we have Preston Park. Yeah. Preston is a gold level reader. 12,303 minutes or 205 hours. That's impressive. Good job. Next we have Penny Unger. She's a gold level reader and gold level sponsor. She raised $150, read for 5,005 minutes, 83 hours. Good job. Next we have Ariana Belani. She's a gold level reader, 5,355 minutes. That's 89 hours. Congratulations. Kira Goldstone. Kira? At the fair. Okay. And finally, Haley Mayer. Haley, you're a gold level sponsor. You raised $300. That's amazing. And next up we have Coleman School. Maureen Rosansky, Councilwoman Maureen Rosansky.
All right, where's all of our Coleman families? All right, thank you. So first up, we have Anita Ackerman. All right, we'll come back to her. All right, we'll come back. Don't worry. All right, so first up, we'll have Reiko Ziotas. Fun fair. All right. Do we have Evan Guaraveras? All right. So he raised $150 And he is a gold level sponsor. Congratulations. He read for 4,550 minutes. Thank you. All right, Avery Stedman. Avery read for 4,550 minutes and raised $200 to be a gold level sponsor and a silver level reader. And we have Erica Park. Erica read 3,920 minutes for 65 hours, raised $150, and is a gold level sponsor and a silver level reader. And we have Mia Di Benedetto. Is she here or at the fair? All right. So we have the Ackermans back. Back? Oh, great. We have Teddy Ackerman. So Teddy, a first grader at Coleman, raised $200 and is a gold level sponsor. Congratulations.
Nice smile, Dan.
All right, is she here? Okay, wonderful. We have Anita Ackerman, who is a gold level reader, gold level sponsor. She read for 5,475 minutes and raised $300. All right, great job, Coleman.
Okay, Central School.
So happy that you're here. Okie doke. First ones up. Alexis Chen. Alexis Chen. Alexis is a gold level reader and a gold level sponsor. Awesome. 5,864 minutes, which is 98 hours, and raised $225. You are amazing. Way to go. And next we have Andrew Chen. Andrew Chen is a gold level reader and gold level sponsor. 5,210 minutes and $225. Next we have Bradley Chaffetz. Bradley, gold level reader, 5,910 minutes. Amazing. Great job. Take a picture. Next is Rayanne Eich. Rayanne here? Yes, awesome. Gold level reader, 11,000 minutes, 865. Wow, that's incredible. 11,865 minutes, 198 hours. Incredible. Emily Finkelberg, gold level sponsor, an amazing $168.50. Congratulations and thank you. And last I have is William Bartos, gold level sponsor. William, $225. Thank you so much. Wow, he's got a great handshake.
Good evening, everyone. First, we have Lev Castellano, a gold level reader, 5,123 minutes, 85 hours. Next up, we have Leo Franco, a gold level sponsor, raised $180. Next up, we have Vincent Franco, a gold level sponsor who has raised $180. Next up, we have Jacob Moreno, a gold level sponsor who raised $729.70. Good work. And next up, we have Leela Finkelberg, a gold level sponsor who raised $205. Good work, everyone.
Braden, the mic from the table.
I got it.
Never mind. Maddie's got it. He's
thanks,
so.
Maddie.
No, the other one.
The other one?
No, you're right.
Sorry.
That one?
This
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Is that everybody? Is there anyone here that didn't get an award that thought they were supposed to? No. Okay. So, congratulations, everyone. Job well done. Keep up the reading. Thank you for raising over $16,000 for the children's library programs. So, all that fun stuff you get to do this summer at the library, you can pat yourself on the back because you personally contributed to that. So, one last big round of applause, and then you can go to the fair. Does anyone want to do a big group photo? Yeah? All right, how about all the kids gather in the front? Big family group photo. Big family group photo. Thank you, Simon. Tall kids in the back. You can push that. Thank you, Bray.
Wait, Lenore's coming down. Oh, maybe they got it.
They got it.
You guys got it, girls? All right.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Maddie, don't miss out the picture now.
All right, young man back here. Young man,
Sanat.
blue and white checks.
Sanat.
Go around. Nobody can see you.
Or you can sit up on the table.
Oh, no.
We don't want any broken bones.
No sand.
All right, everybody look. 1, 2, 3.
Love you. Take your babies. Jill, we now have 3. Maddie made that dress. That's sewing class.
I'm doing it now. I'm doing the commercial.
Got it? Love you. Going home now? I wish. I gave the bird ones to Bird to bring to school tomorrow. Yes. Is that okay? Maddie, hop in here. Get in here, Jen. Wait for me.
Don't ask. They're good kids. Okay. Yes, thank you. Oh, that was really loud for a moment. Okay. So before we get into our proclamations, I'm going to turn over to Teresa so she can make her announcements before we get into our last proclamation.
So this is not our normal once-a-month department reports, but there have been some things happening at the Arboretum that we feel it's really time-sensitive, and we need to bring them to the attention of Glen Rock residents. So the Friends of the Arboretum, as you all likely know, is the nonprofit that, in conjunction with the borough, takes care of the Arboretum itself. So every year, I'm sure a lot of you come, FOGRA, the Friends of the Arboretum, holds a really successful fishing derby. And we stock the pond with fish, and this is really very successful. We have a diverse collection. We have trout, bluegill, bass, catfish, and sunfish. And then you'll see lots of kids fishing, after school, on the weekends, and it's really a wonderful thing. But while this is fabulous, there have been some concerns that have come to our attention recently. So recently, the stewards have encountered a turtle with barbed hooks in it, a robin tangled in fishing line, a gosling tangled in fishing line, and you might, if you go there, see the trees and shrubs filled with bobbers and trash left by our fisher people. So we're asking for your help in educating your children on proper fishing techniques, the laws regarding what is and what is not acceptable. For example, barbed hooks are illegal, and there's a good practice of cleaning up after yourself. So it might be very possible that you buy a little introductory fishing kit, don't look at it, the kids get there, and they're using the barbed hooks, which is not allowed. So we encourage good fishing practices, and we're going to be working on, I say we in the Friends of the Arboretum sense, working on some education materials in the coming months, and it's our hope that the practices can be improved so the pond can be a fun place to go fishing and the kids can continue to enjoy it. And we also carry out our mission of protecting the wildlife and the vegetation in the Arboretum. We also had a situation where some children started a fire in the woods of the Arboretum, and obviously that is unacceptable. Thank goodness it didn't get out of control. There was somebody there who was able to help to extinguish it. So I hope you'll speak to your children. These were probably middle schoolers on bikes, so if you know that your children go into the Arboretum, maybe you can speak with them about the dangers of burning down our beautiful Arboretum. So that is my commercial, and we will continue to monitor the situation and alert folks. So that's it.
That was a really sudden change in the mood, but very necessary, and it's unfortunate that we have to put out these reminders. I live right across the street, and I have noticed a lot of the elementary school kids are now going over with poles, and they're there pretty much every day, so it may be a good reminder. Who is our liaison to the schools? Is that Maureen? How about you send an email to the principals and just have them push it out to their HSAs? I think that would be a good way, especially before school ends. And with that, we are going to move on to our last proclamation, which we had read at the Pride event on June 1st. So let's read this into the record here now. So we'll start with Seth. Oh, do you need it? You have it. Okay, perfect.
Whereas the Borough of Glen Rock cherishes the value and dignity of each person and appreciates the importance of equality and freedom, and
whereas all are welcome in the borough of Glen Rock to live, work, play, and every family in any shape deserves a place to call home where they are safe, happy, and supported by friends and neighbors. And
whereas the Borough of Glen Rock denounces prejudice and unfair discrimination based on age, gender identity, gender expression, race, color, religion, marital status, national origin, sexual orientation, or physical attributes as an affront to our fundamental principles. And
whereas Pride Month began in June of 1969 on the one-year anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising in New York City,
after LGBTQ plus and allied friends rose up and fought against the constant police harassment and discriminatory laws that have been since declared unconstitutional. And
Whereas we will continue our work to build a society where every child grows up knowing that their community supports them, is proud of them, and has a place for them exactly as they are.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Glen Rock hereby proclaims the month of June 2025 as Pride Month in support of the LGBTQ plus community.
Be it further resolved that the rainbow flag will be raised on this day, June 1st, 2025, recognizing all LGBTQ residents whose influential and lasting contributions to our neighborhoods make Glen Rock a vibrant community in which to live, work, and visit.
Be it further resolved that we urge residents to recognize the contributions made by members of the LGBTQ+ community and to actively promote the principles of equality, liberty, and justice.
Okay, thank you. And now we will move on to our consent agenda, and I believe that Council President Gilbreth wanted to pull which minutes, love?
The work session for 528, I was not in attendance, so I don't want to include them as part of the consent agenda. I can do the public meeting, just not the work session.
You can't just abstain altogether?
No.
Okay. So, motion to remove number 2, the work session of 528 minutes from the agenda. Teresa?
Make that motion?
And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now we will move on to the regular consent agenda.
All items listed are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the Borough Council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member requests it, in which case the items will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. The one motion signifies the adoption of all resolutions, received and filed letters, correspondence, reports, and approval of application and minutes. Resolution 1 for payment of bills, Resolution 2 for approval of minutes, Resolution 3 for summer salaries, Resolution 4 authorizing bid advertisement for East Gramercy improvement, Resolution 5 for cancellation of special emergency, Resolution 6 for liquor license renewals, Resolution 7 for award Sourcewell contract, FD washer and dryer, Resolution 8 for state contract for PD Motorola radios and equipment.
May I please have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
And a second.
I second.
Maureen and Beth, please call the roll.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbreth?
Yes.
Councilmember Orlett?
Yes.
Councilmember Cole?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosansky?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosenstein?
Yes.
I'm just trying to think of what to call it. Okay, at this time, may I please have a motion to approve the number 2 on the consent agenda, letter C, the 528 work session minutes.
I'll make that motion.
And a second.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbreth?
Abstain?
Councilmember Orlett?
Yes.
Councilmember Cole?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosansky?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosenstein?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we will move on to our ordinances. We have ordinance number 1946 on for first reading, an ordinance of the Borough of Glen Rock, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, authorizing a special emergency appropriation of $100,000 for the preparation of an approved tax map. May I please have a motion to introduce ordinance number 1946?
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Teresa.
second.
Oh, that was quick.
Be it resolved by the Borough Council of the Borough of Glen Rock of an ordinance of the Borough of Glen Rock in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, authorizing a special emergency appropriation for $100,000 for the preparation of an approved tax map. Heretofore introduced and does not pass on first reading, and that the said ordinance be further considered for final passage at the meeting to be held on June 25th, 2025 at 8 p.m. or soon thereafter as the matter can be reached at the municipal building in the Borough of Glen Rock. And at such time and place, all persons interested be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance, and the Borough Clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish said ordinance in the Bergen Record according to law with a notice of its introduction and passage on first reading, and of time and place when and where said ordinance will be further considered for final passage.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Yes.
Councilmember Orlik?
Yes.
Councilmember Cole?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosansky?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosenstein?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 1946 passes first reading. Next up, ordinance number 1947, another first reading, an amendment to an ordinance to fix compensation of certain officers and employees of the Borough of Glen Rock, Bergen County, New Jersey. May I please have a motion to introduce ordinance number 1947?
I'll make that motion.
Maureen, and a second?
I'll second.
Teresa.
Be it resolved by the Borough Council of the Borough of Glen Rock, an amendment to an ordinance to fix the compensation of certain officers and employees of the Borough of Glen Rock, Bergen County, New Jersey. Heretofore introduced and does now pass on first reading, and that the said ordinance be further considered for final passage at a meeting to be held on July 23rd, 2025 at 8 p.m. or soon thereafter as the matter can be reached at the municipal building in the Borough of Glen Rock. And at such time and place, persons interested be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance, and the Borough Clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish said ordinance in the Bergen Record according to law with a notice of its introduction and passage on first reading, and of the time and place when and where said ordinance will be further considered for final passage.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Yes.
Councilmember Orlik?
Yes.
Councilmember Cole?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosansky?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosenstein?
Yes.
Ordinance number 1947 passes first reading. Now we are on to ordinance number 1941, a final reading. This is authorizing a corrective deed between the Borough of Glen Rock and the Village of Ridgewood. This is for water main access on Doremus Avenue. May I please have a motion to open the public hearing for ordinance number 1941?
I'll make that motion.
And a second.
I'll second.
Oh, Teresa beat you. All in
The whole
favor?
end of the table. Aye.
Okay, at this time, the public, I'm looking at you two, if you have any comments regarding ordinance number 1941, you may do so at this time. No? Okay. Seeing and hearing no one, may I please have a motion? Yeah, I mean, we were packed a minute ago. Thank you. Thank May I have a motion to close the, don't make me laugh, it's like starting to spasm. Motion to close the public hearing for ordinance number 1941.
I'll make that motion.
And a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now may I please have a motion to introduce ordinance number 1941 for final reading? I'll make that motion. Amy, and a second.
Second.
Seth.
An ordinance authorizing the execution of a corrective deed between the Borough of Glen Rock and the Village of Ridgewood with respect to Lot 5 and Block 46 and water main access and maintenance easements upon the portion of Lot 4 and Block 46 as shown on the tax map of the Borough of Glen Rock pursuant to NJSA 48:12-13B1, be passed upon second and final reading, and that the Borough Clerk be and is hereby authorized and directed to advertise the same according to law by publishing the same by title in the Bergen Record.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Yes.
Councilmember Orlik?
Yes.
Councilmember Cole?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosansky?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosenstein?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Ordinance number 1941 passes final reading. Next up is ordinance number 1943, final reading, an ordinance amending the Borough of Glen Rock Code of Ordinances to repeal Chapter 112 flood damage prevention and to adopt a new Chapter 111 to adopt flood hazard maps, to designate a floodplain administrator and providing for severability and an effective date. May I please have a motion to open the public hearing for ordinance number 1943?
I'll make the motion.
Beth, and a second.
Second.
Seth, all in favor?
Aye.
At this time, you may, no. Okay,
So may I please have a motion to close the public hearing for ordinance number 1943?
Make that motion.
Seth, and a second.
I'll second.
Amy, all in favor?
Aye.
May I please have a motion to introduce ordinance 1943 for final reading?
I'll make that motion.
Amy, and a second.
Second.
Seth.
An ordinance by the mayor and council amending the Borough of Glen Rock Code of Ordinances to repeal Chapter 112 flood damage prevention and to adopt a new Chapter 111, to adopt flood hazard maps, to designate a floodplain administrator and providing the severability and an effective date. Be passed upon second and final reading, and that the borough clerk be and is hereby authorized and directed to advertise the same according to law by publishing the same by title in the Bergen Record.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbreath?
Yes.
Councilmember Orlick?
Yes.
Councilmember Call?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosansky?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosenstein?
Yes.
Ordinance number 1943 passes final reading. May I please move on to ordinance number 1945, another final reading. This is a bond ordinance for supplemental funding of the library elevator. My son. Okay, project in, for, and by the borough for the sum of $100,000. So please have a motion to open the public hearing for ordinance number 1945.
I'll make that motion.
Teresa, and a second.
I'll second.
Jill, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
At this time, if anyone has comment for ordinance number 1945. Liz isn't even making eye contact, so I'm going to ask for a motion. I'm going to ask for a motion to close the public hearing for ordinance number 1945.
I'll make that motion.
And a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now may I please have a motion to introduce ordinance number 1945 for final reading?
I'll make that motion.
Teresa,
I'll
thank
second.
you. And Jill. Please,
Did you call
read
me
it.
Michelle?
Oh, I thought you were Jill.
I thought you
Amy,
called me Jill.
sorry.
I thought you called me
oh.
Michelle.
Amy, sorry.
Bond ordinance for supplemental funding of the library elevator project in, by, and for the Borough of Glen Rock in the County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $100,000 to pay the cost thereof, to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in the anticipation of the issuance of such bonds. Be passed upon second and final reading, and that the borough clerk be and is hereby authorized and directed to advertise the same according to law by publishing the same by title in the Bergen Record.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbreath?
Yes.
Councilmember Orlick?
Yes.
Councilmember Call?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosansky?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosenstein?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance number 1945 passes final reading. At this time, I will look for a motion to open to public comment.
I'll make that motion.
Seth, and a second.
I'll second.
That's Jill's voice. Okay. At this time, you have 3 minutes. You may come to the microphone, state your name and address, and you may speak on anything. Is it on?
Linda Brennan, 505 Doremus Avenue. So a few meetings ago, I had inquired about the borough administrative search, and Christine, you're kind enough to provide some overview of what was to happen. Can you delve a little bit more into that and give us a little more color on what progress has been made? I think you mentioned something about, well, not something about committees. I think there was a main committee, then a subcommittee. So if you could just give an update, has it been advertised? Where is it advertised?
It has been advertised. You asked this last time. It was advertised on the League of Municipalities site. I believe it was on various websites and in publications which attract that type of employee, a borough administrator, CFO. I believe the search time ended on the 19th. Am I correct with that date? I don't know. Anyone? Ow.
Yes.
Okay. So at this point, I will defer to Teresa because she is on the hiring committee. Can you add any more color to that?
Can I add any more color?
Yeah, like when do
Search
you
continues.
expect?
Yeah.
Search continues?
Search continues.
So what was it said, the search time ended? I'm not sure what that meant, or, sorry, it continues now?
So actually, this won't be discussed, that's a very good point. Since it's a personnel matter and it's a hiring matter, these decisions will be made in closed session and discussions will be had in closed session. And I believe that it's on the agenda for close this evening. So, discussions, not decisions. And as soon as we know, you'll know.
The borough administrative position is not something of interest to the town?
It is of interest, yes, but when we're making hiring decisions, we do that in closed session. And then, not even decisions, discussions, because it is like,
Contractual.
it's protected information because it involves contracts.
So the town is then made aware when the decision is made?
Yes.
So as a public servant, so Christine, do you have an interest in the position?
Yes, I do.
And have you applied?
Yes, I have.
Thank you for
And
that.
therefore, I am not privy to any, that's why I'm sitting here and I'm like, I can't tell you anything because I've completely been removed from all the discussions about it as soon as I applied.
Okay. Thank you
Actually,
for that.
prior to that, while I was considering it.
Okay, so you're not on the search committee?
Oh, God, no. I can't.
Stranger things
No,
have happened. I've been in
and
the
I want to
corporate
be, I
world,
want to be
believe me.
very, very clear, and I'm kind of curious as to why you felt it's okay to put it out into the public realm at this point, that, I don't know how you became aware that I applied, but why would you even want to put that into the public record right now? To what purpose is that?
So when is Lenora's last day?
September,
September what?
I believe.
September 1st. Okay, so the decision will be made prior to September 1st.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
But I asked you, why did you feel it okay to ask what, if I applied, if you already knew, and...
I didn't know. I said, I asked you if you had an interest in the position, and you answered me yes.
Yeah.
That's all I said, and then you confirmed that you applied. I think it's important that we know for such an important position.
But you won't know the other applicants that applied.
Okay, you can share them with us. You can share what other qualified people have
No.
also applied.
We can't share that information.
Okay. But I just, being challenged here, I would think
No,
that
I'm not challenging
if
you.
you're
I'm
going to
I'm
obtain a
legitimately,
position.
I'm legitimately curious as to why you felt it necessary to ask me here in a public meeting if I applied. That's all I'm asking. I'm not challenging you. You can ask whatever you want up here. And I also have the right to not answer that question, but I did.
And I said thank you for answering it, because I would like to be in full transparent about next steps then, should you obtain the position? Is that not of interest to the community?
Well, the community wouldn't be interested if they didn't know who was applying. You know what I'm saying? Do you see like the weird disconnect there? I guess it's kind of a gossipy factor at this point.
It's not a gossipy factor. I had asked if you had an interest in it. I didn't ask, then you said yes, and then I said, did you apply?
Okay.
So that's it. So
Fair enough. And then the last thing I will say on this topic, and I'm not going to speak any more about it because, I've removed myself from all discussions. I have removed myself from any meetings about it. I am not privy to any executive session about it. We have our labor attorney working with the search committee, which I did not even select the search committee. That's how far removed I'm trying to be so that it's completely unbiased. While I do think I would be very much the qualified candidate for this role, I'm not guaranteed to get this role. So I apologize if I came off confrontational, but I just want you to take a step back and think, now that it's out into the public and I don't get the job, what does that say about? There's a lot of factors at play. That's why I asked why you wanted to put it into the record tonight, that's all.
I'm not sure. Okay, I know you're not going to say anything more. If you don't get the job, and we've all lived life. We've all had job interviews. We don't get them. Some get them. It's not a reflection on you whether you don't get it or not. But I think clearly, as the mayor of a town, if you were to get the job, understanding what the next steps are as far as this council and next steps. I mean, I think that's pretty good thing to know, okay? That's it. So thank you for your transparency, and good luck.
Liz, anything? Seeing and hearing no one, may I please have a motion to close public comment? Amy, and a second. Who seconded?
I'll second.
Teresa, all in favor?
Aye.
Now may I please have a motion to adjourn into executive
Well, do we have to go back to?
No, we're going to adjourn into executive session for the matters of contracts and personnel and litigation.
I'll make that motion.
Jill, and a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.